London-listed advanced materials company Versarien, which has been working on the global push against COVID, has just undertaken a new deal in South Korea with Hanwha Aerospace. Neill Ricketts is Versarien Chief Executive, and he joins us now. Neill, it's good to be able to catch up with you at the back end of 2020, and I know we're going to be talking a little bit more about what's been happening for you this year, but I do want to catch up with you first of all about this deal that you've highlighted today, a share deal worth 4.3 million sterling. Explain why and what it is you hope to achieve out of it.
Thanks, Jeremy, and Merry Christmas to you. This deal is a big thing for Versarien. It's the acquisition and of the IP and the assets of Hanwha Aerospace that's involved in chemical vapor deposition of graphene, which is quite unlike the graphene that we produce. We have had experience in doing graphene by this way, but it's not something that we've really pushed on because it's been relatively expensive to get the assets which come as part of this deal. So what we've done here is we've acquired the assets and the IP, and we will exchange that for shares in a share transaction, and that will give us a real big push and cut down our development time on a project that we've been working with Rolls-Royce that we announced earlier in the year. That particular project is around using this technology, chemical vapor deposition, in anti-corrosion for electric aircraft. So quite interesting and quite opportune at the moment.
What do you see as the market then for this? Obviously, ultimately, it's all about making money for the company. What is it you intend to, or how are you setting things up so you do get shareholder return on the deal?
So we've been active in Southeast Asia now for about 3 years. We've been looking at projects in South Korea, but also China, Malaysia, Japan. And this is our first real big opportunity. What we've done here is we've already set up a company in South Korea, and we've got people on the ground. Rachel and Matt have been working tirelessly to come up with some opportunities. This one came about as a result of that work. This technology was actually originally designed and developed by Samsung, and its main use is in optoelectronics. So think about bringing all of those fantastic things from Star Trek and Star Wars to fruition. Flexible displays that are built into glass panels or glass sheets. Those things are required in defense, they're required in automotive, they're required in aerospace and a number of other sectors. So the IP is, in our opinion, obviously very valuable. But what's more valuable, and the reason that we've been able to do this deal, is very similar to the other deals we did with the University of Manchester, the University of Cambridge, and with Nanomat, is we're able to use the skills and resources we've got inside the group, but also our external partners. As I said, being so kind of having access to the university facilities at the Graphene Engineering Innovation Centre will be absolutely instrumental in getting this through its next phase and into commercialisation. And so that's what we bring to the party, is it's all our connections.
Let me just quickly update people as well on something else that's been happening at the company. Of course, you also entered into a subscription agreement recently with a company called Landsat Capital. Now, I know prior to this, I believe you had been the largest shareholder in the company. And I ought to say it as well at this point that I'm a shareholder as well in Versarien. But I understand this Landsat Capital deal for something like around about 8.75 million shares, I believe, now puts Landsat back as the biggest shareholder of the company, but it also brings about £3.5 million onto the balance sheet. Let's take a look at the share price first of all, just to put all this into some sort of context, because I think the company's currently worth, Versarien's currently worth around about 65 million sterling, I think, in market capitalization. Explain how the Landsat Capital deal helps the company in bringing money onto the balance sheet.
Well, we've always, we've had an active relationship with Landsat for about 3 years. We've looked at the scheme and the proposition that they bring forward, and that's all about taking a conventional placing and turning it into a sharing agreement so that the company can benefit if the share price returns to its previous levels. There is a slight risk there that the share price may actually go down, but obviously we're anticipating as a company that it will go up. That's why we've entered into this agreement. It would always be our intention, obviously, to return great shareholder value. And what we've done here is, rather than do a conventional placing at a depressed share price, we've entered into the sharing agreement so that there's a potential for us to be able to benefit from the news that we anticipate bringing to the market. We believe it's a very innovative and a great way to raise capital for tech companies like ourselves, and we would always suggest that companies really do look at it as an alternative to perhaps a conventional placing. You can imagine trying to do a roadshow as we go into the last week of the year would be potentially very difficult, notwithstanding the effects of COVID that we're seeing. Trying to get meetings and trying to get things organized is extremely difficult compared to what we would normally have. So it's not a substitute for conventional placings. It's just very useful at the moment, and something that we would suggest is appropriate to the company, which is why the directors agreed to it, and subsequently why Landsat have offered us a second tranche.
If we just quickly go back to the share price chart again, just to you talking there in the context about a relatively depressed share price, you'd like to get back to levels that were. What should be the right level, bearing in mind where you are as a company, what you're now doing, who you're working with, what the contract potential values are, and so forth? At 37.7 pence, what do you say to shareholders about what it is that this level represents, bearing in mind where you are?
Well, obviously, I have to declare that I'm a significant shareholder. I'm the second largest shareholder overall and the largest private individual outside of Landsat, who are an institution. And it would always be my intention to get that share price higher, to be able to deliver the shareholder value that we have done in the past. I believe we're in a much stronger position now than we have been before. We've got far more collaborations. We've got far more opportunities. We've obviously announced recently the G-Scale project with Innovate UK, which is a £5 million innovation loan, the largest one that we believe has ever been delivered, especially to an SME. More recently, we announced the 1.96 million defence contract, which again is a significant vote of confidence from the UK government that this technology has a real use in defence applications. But we've also been involved in a number of other projects, including Airbus, Rolls-Royce, and some automotive companies through the Advanced Propulsion Centre. So it's been a very, very busy time for us this year.
Yeah, I was going to ask a little bit more about the Ministry of Defence contract. Anything more you can tell us about it? I know there's a certain amount of unknown about this, certain mystery about it, but you've been guarded in what you say. When will we know more about what it is you're doing?
Well, unfortunately, that decision is out of my control, and the project is obviously classified by the various levels of security within the defence industry. But what I can tell you is that this is about delivering graphene into carbon fiber composite type projects where we know that graphene can provide a really big advantage in terms of the functionality of those. If we want to lightweight parts that are used in the defense industry, then graphene is a great way of being able to strengthen and to provide extra functionality to those components. We can't go into the details, unfortunately, just because of the type of project that it is. But it is a significant event for the company and a validation of this technology and those applications. We'll be working with our partners at the University of Cambridge and the Graphene Engineering Innovation Centre to deliver this project on quite tight timescales, to be honest.
Yeah, I said at the top, of course, you're an advanced materials company. Of course, we are looking here at finding new ways all the time of applying the materials that you're talking about here. And one of the new ways that you have discovered this year is the fact that it does have a certain resistance to viral impact, COVID particularly. And I know you've been working in some areas to try and help the global push, as I called it at the top, against COVID-19. And I know we have spoken about this before off air about the masks you're producing. Give us some more detail about what it is you're doing here and how your product in masks helps us as a user to combat COVID.
So we know that that graphene has an antibacterial property by its very nature. But what we were interested to do was to actually explore how we can use the materials that we've got around us and the technologies and the expertise, especially with Roberto and his team over in Spain at Nanomat, to be able to use the graphene as a scaffold to put other materials on to actually kill COVID on contact. I'm a great believer that COVID is not going to go away. It's something that is in the population now. It will mutate and it will develop. And so using graphene to be able to come up with more effective treatments for other materials that we use on a day-to-day basis has got to be good for everybody. The project started off because we were involved in developing the bed panels for the Nightingales, which are produced at our AAC factory in Banbury. People sometimes forget that we're actually, as well as having a development arm to the business, which is graphene, we also have a more traditional manufacturing arm. And they were producing these bed panels, and it struck me that if we could incorporate graphene into those bed panels, then you can never guarantee 100% cleanliness of those panels. And so if the graphene can kill on contact, then it will improve the performance of those devices. But devices all over. That led into a conversation with one of our partners in China. We've been pretty active in China around the production of face masks and using graphene in those face masks, which we launched, I think it was the back end of September, and we've producing those and assisting in the distribution of those ever since. To the extent that we've brought out our specialist team now to help develop those kind of product lines. But it also has an impact on things like leisure, and as part of G-Scale, we're able to use the antiviral properties in the clothing as well. So it's a very multifaceted approach to what I think is a very serious problem for society.
Does it cost much more to coat things than in graphene? I imagine you've got to have specialist processes involved when you're talking about coating something in this, the way you describe it, a protective layer, and of course also incorporating in things like face masks. Does it increase the cost of the end product very much after having done that process?
No, the additional cost is very low because we need to use much less material than we would do if we were using conventional techniques. So we believe that it's actually beneficial in terms of cost to go through this process. The antiviral study that occurred in Turkey is at a preliminary stage. It was part of a number of projects which were put on to try and solve some of these problems by big governments, not just the UK government, but some of the European governments as well. And that led us to the connections and the contacts that enabled us to be able to prove that this works in the laboratory. What we have to do now is we have to take that work that's been done in the laboratory and turning into products that we can actually buy on a day-to-day basis. So our masks currently don't use this technology that we've developed in Turkey, but the intention is that they will do in the near future.
Just one final question. That is about the sort of management of the business now. I mean, we've spoken in London several times face to face. Clearly, in the last 8, 9, 10 months, we've all been closed down and activities have been greatly reduced. Are you finding it tough as the chief executive and a founding member of a company that is used to meeting people face to face by doing everything from your front room there in the Forest of Dean? Do you miss the opportunity to go to China and Japan and the US as to wherever you do your business?
Not at all, actually. I'm sure my family would say that they'd rather I got on a plane and left them, stopped bothering them. But the reality is that I've been able to spend a lot of time with my family. I've not had the commuting or the traveling, which has been very beneficial this year. When we started the company in 2010, it was December 2010, early 2011. We set it up to work remotely. The only problem I have at the moment is I'm working multiple time zones, which means I'm staying up all night and then working through the day and then staying up all evening as well. Hence why I look like a tramp and you look like you've wrap refreshed there. I need to get some tips from you there, Jeremy. But the biggest thing is that we've been so busy. So from my perspective, it's been great not to do the traveling, but we filled the time with a lot more activity. And as I said to you before, when we talk about the share price, I believe the company is in a much stronger position now, having acquired the government support and the things like the graphene flagship Airbus project under our belt. It's a different world. It's a new world, but one that we've adapted to very quickly and very successfully, I believe.
What's in the pipe for 2021?
You always do like to get me in trouble, don't you, Jeremy? But I think 2021 is all about us being able to demonstrate to the world that we now have the fundamentals in this technology to make a significant change. We're starting to see that with the face masks. I was very fortunate to post a picture from Hyundai Robotics chief of staff, where they're trialing our face masks, and we're able to demonstrate the real success that can come from this technology that the UK government invested in a number of years ago. We're at that point where it's all about promotion and marketing and sales, and that's why the Landsat deal is so important to us, because it gives us that confidence to be able to push in some really difficult times. Not every business is as fortunate as we are at the moment in terms of having the support we have.
Yeah. Look, okay, well, stay safe and have a happy Christmas and a good new year. And we're looking forward to speaking to you again sometime in 2021, hopefully face-to-face at some point in the new year.
I look forward to coming in and seeing you, Jeremy.
Lovely. Jolly good. Neill, thanks so much indeed. That's Neill Ricketts. He's one of the founding members and the chief executive of Versarien. For more videos from us here at IGTV, join us on Twitter at IGTV and subscribe to our YouTube channel.